Hey, what's going on guys? Josh Donnelly here with yet another Pro Theme tutorial. Today's video is going to be the basics. This is Pro Theme 101, just kind of understanding the workspace and the builder and where you are and where you need to go. First things first, on a basic install, this is what it's going to look like when you access a page. Obviously, we already have a design over here, but this is your general layout. If you've watched any of my videos, you've probably realized that I have a slightly different layout that I prefer working in. This is totally a personal preference, but let's understand what we're working with here. Let's understand a little bit about the components that make up the builder. This left bar that we have right here that holds our elements in our preview size, this is known as the toolbar. This area here with the actual meat and potatoes of what we're working in, this is the workspace. And the workspace also includes our outline, our inspector, our settings for the page, and then our global theme settings here. And then this area that I have up top here, this is our navigation bar. So now my personal preference for setting things up is that my toolbar here moves up to the top, so I simply click and drag to anywhere that there's a blue space. So I'm going to put mine up at the top here. Now you can stack, but I also don't personally prefer that, so I'm going to pull my navigation bar down to the bottom. So if you've watched any of my videos, this is my typical layout for a build, and I just personally like this. Now, whenever you click on an element, that is called inspecting an element, and you'll notice that immediately drops you over to the inspector here, where you now can see the details of what makes up that element, and obviously this is where you can do your designing. If you need to jump to a different area of the page, you can obviously click or jump over to your outline, which then shows you the entire page structure and each of the components and elements that makes up that page that you are designing. A couple of handy features when you're first getting started is actually taking a look at the preferences. Now these are user preferences, so these are just on your user account, not on your client's account. And you'll notice there's things like advanced mode and content layout elements and dynamic content. Honestly, all of these I typically leave standard, just how they come out of the box. But then we get down here. So you have your UI theme. I prefer dark, which is now the default UI theme, but this is where you can change to light if you wanted to. Status indicators. So anytime that you have loopers or consumers or custom CSS, you'll now notice these little things here, this 1 and this 3 and this 1 and this 2. And you'll notice off to the side of that, you're getting a little notification. That shows you some of the more complex details that have been applied to elements. So you'll see if I say I just want this on my breadcrumbs, it doesn't show up here anymore. Or if I want it in my workspace only, it only shows up right here. I typically keep this on workspace and breadcrumbs. Now, I personally like to turn on Dev Console. Honestly, if you watch my other video, which I'll link to below, this is how you can do copy and pasting across sites or across tabs. I prefer to have auto close elements toggled on. And so what this means is if this is off, then when you grab an element here and you drag that element out like a card, this window stays open. So this is the default. I personally like this window to hide. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select auto close elements on, and now if I go ahead and drag an element out, it automatically closes so I can then inspect that element and begin designing. For this item here, preserve inspector group, I typically keep this turned off. But what this is going to do for you, let's show you what this looks like without it on. So without preserve inspector group activated, if we're working in a button and we're in effects here, so we're working on our effects on this button, and then we come over to our headline here and we click on this, we're no longer in effects. It takes us to the top, which is the headline setup. If we have preserve inspector group turned on and I come over to this button and I'm working in effects and then I click on the headline, it keeps me in the same grouping that I'm in. So I could jump back and forth and just be in effects here. Now this is great, but it doesn't really work well for me in my overall workflow. What I prefer is coming in here, making sure that my preserve inspector group is toggled off, and then a little known trick is actually holding down the command key, which then keeps me in my inspector group. As I'm selecting buttons, I'm just ensuring that I'm holding down the command key and I'm staying in that effects group you'll notice down here. And then the final option for us under preferences is the navigation bar. So here you can basically just set up how this bar works. So I can have everything move over to the right side. I can have everything spaced, so the navigation and the inspector groups I can have, everything reversed. Really just up to you and what's going to work for your design and workflow. The first step in mastering any program is understanding the interface and the tool itself. So hopefully this helps you get your feet wet with Pro. It really is an amazing tool, but you got to understand what you're working with. If you're interested in seeing more content like this, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.